In this module, we'll talk about creating maps with Linked KML layers. In particular, we'll define what the Linked KML layer is, and we'll walk you through the steps of how to create a map with a Linked KML layer within Maps engine. Next, we'll publish and load this map in Google Earth so that you can see how this layer and its data will appear within the client. And finally, end off by discussing the advantages and limitations when working with Linked KML layers. When you create a map in Maps engine and start adding vector or imagery layers to the map, another thing you could add in addition to the vector and imagery layers is what we call a Linked KML layer. So this KML file is hosted externally and it has to be publicly accessible. In other words, if I were to use this link in a browser and try to download, it has to download immediately and not prompt me with any authorization or authentication prompts. So when you create this map and add a link to this KML layer as part of this map, this link appears as a layer of the map. In other words, you didn't have to upload the data set, you did not have to create a layer, but when you add it to a map as a Linked KML layer, it will appear as a layer within the map. So this is done implicitly when you create, process, and ultimately visualize the map. So let's go on to the console and see how all these things happen. So I'm going to start by creating a map. Let's call it map with Linked KML. Create that. And since there's no layers to begin with, I'm going to go ahead and start by adding one of the vector layers that I've created. This is the same vector layer that we've used in other modules. It contains a list of locations within Singapore. After adding the vector layer, I'm going to go ahead and click on the Add button. And instead of adding yet another vector or imagery layer, I'm going to use this option right here, which says Linked KML. And this allows me to add a link to an externally hosted KML or KMZ file. I'm going to give it a name EPA because I know what the contents of this KMZ file are. And here I provide the link. Again, make sure this link points to the KML or KMZ file, and it has to be publicly accessible. I'm going to go ahead and click Add. As I expected, it will be listed as one of the layers within the map. I'm going to go ahead and publish this map and go into the map details view. Click on refresh. Now that the map has been successfully published, we can take a look at the published links and visualize the map in various clients. One more thing about the Linked KML dataset that we use in this example, it's collected by US Environmental Protection Agency, hence I've used the short form EPA, and it has as its data a list of EPA regulated facilities. First of all, we're going to use the Google Earth link to display this map and its layers within Google Earth client. Let's launch Google Earth. Again, the first step is to sign into Maps engine. And once signed in, it's going to provide you with a list of all the maps you have access to as this user. Just going to go ahead, click on the Advanced tab, paste the Google Earth link that I just copied from the console. And the map that I just created appears. And if I expand this, you can see Demo 1 layer, which is one of the vector layers that I added. The other layer is the EPA layer, or in other words, the Linked KML layer that I added to the map. So notice as part of this layer, which is implicitly created, I have a collection of data that was contained in the KMZ file. Let's click on this. And this provides you some description about the data set. And if I want to centralize the map to the region where the data is located, I just click on that and zoom in further. And this is the data that was retrieved from within the linked KML or KMZ file. If I click on one of the features, it brings up the info window with its content. So let's try launch the map now using the Google Maps link. So in other words, we're using the built-in map viewer to display that map within the browser. Let's click on the link. And if you notice now, the Linked KML layer does not appear within Google Maps. Now this is not an error or a mistake that we did during the map creation process. It is one of the limitations when working with Linked KML. So currently, the Linked KML layer will only appear within Google Earth Client, like what we saw when we launched it in Google Earth Client. It is not supported within the default built-in map viewer or any of the other published links. So as a guideline, when working with Linked KML layers and adding them to a map, you want to make sure that apart from the Linked KML layer, you always have at least one other vector or imagery layer present. So when you display the map in clients other than Google Earth, you would still see some data being displayed as part of the map. Although that's a limitation, one of the advantages of working with Linked KML layer is that we did not have to upload this KML or KMZ data set like what we saw when creating the map. And since there was no data set to begin with, we did not have to create any layer and process it. However, when creating the map and providing the link, the map creation process creates an implicit layer so that we know how to refer to this externally located KMZ file with a name, which was the layer name that you provided when creating the map.